Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And welcome to a special edition of Ahlulbayt Live, where this afternoon we're discussing the road to Ashura, discussing the events surrounding the events of Ashura. My guest this afternoon is Syed Muhammad Musawi. Sayyidina, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you very much for joining us. A reminder to our viewers that, as always, this is a live show, and do call in, ask your questions, or share your comments about the program here this afternoon. The number is 0203 4117 842, or you can text us 07506 842 842. And if you are calling from abroad, the number is +44 203 4117 842. Sayyidina, time is of the essence, so inshallah let's get straight onto the program. When we discuss about the road to Ashura, obviously we start off with the city of Hijaz, the city of Medina. Could you explain what took place in Medina?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. First, we say عظم الله أجوركم وأجورنا بمصاب سيدنا أبي عبد الله Hussein. May Allah keep all of us, all our mu'mineen, our brothers and sisters, with His sincere followers, and keep us always remembering Imam Hussein and mourning on the tragedies of Karbala and on the right path of the teachings of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in our life, and may Allah grant us the martyrdom in the love and obedience of Allah, the Prophet, and Ahlulbayt alayhim salam. Imam Hussein alayhi salam was in Medina after the martyrdom of his brother Imam Hassan, which took place in the year 50 after Hijrah, when Muawiyah sent poison for him through a very bad wife, one of the wives of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, by the name of Ju'da bint al-Ash'ath. Ju'da bint al-Ash'ath belonged to a bad family, and the marriage between Imam Hassan and Ju'da was just to avoid the harm of her family. Her father, her brother, they were giving Amir al-Mu'mineen a lot of trouble. So one of the ways to avoid the harm, as in the life of the Prophet also, peace be upon him and his holy progeny, the Prophet got married to some ladies just to avoid the harm from her family. Ju'da was like that, and Ju'da had a conspiracy with Muawiyah, who offered her 100,000 dirhams and promised her that if she gives that poison which Muawiyah sent to Imam Hassan, he will then make her married to his son Yazid. She committed that crime, and she put the poison for Imam Hassan, as was agreed between her and Muawiyah. Muawiyah sent her the money, the 100,000 dirhams, but said, no, I'm sorry, I cannot make you wife of my son, as you have killed Imam Hassan. How can I trust you on my son? The year 50, Imam Hussein became the Imam, and he was in Medina. And he was not silent at all when he used to see the crimes of Muawiyah. And he was opposing Muawiyah, but not fighting against him. Because Imam Hassan had a treaty, and the treaty had in it Imam Hussein as part of the treaty. According to the treaty between Imam Hassan and Muawiyah, that Muawiyah takes the rule now, and when he dies, the government returns back to Imam Hassan. And if Imam Hassan was not alive when Muawiyah dies, then it returns back to Imam Hussein. So Imam Hussein was the entitled person to get the government according to the treaty. So everyone was expecting that as soon as Muawiyah dies, and Muawiyah was very well known in his overeating. Even in the Sahih Muslim, there is a bab chapter regarding those people against whom the Prophet prayed against them. The first hadith that the Prophet prayed against Muawiyah, and he said, "La ashba Allahu batnah." The hadith says that the Prophet sent someone to call Muawiyah. Muawiyah did not come because he was eating. Then after some time he sent again to call him. He did not come. He was eating and eating. Then the Prophet said, "La ashba Allahu batnah." May his stomach remain always hungry. So Muawiyah was well known that he was always eating. And such person usually gets a lot of illnesses. So people were expecting Muawiyah to die and waiting for Imam Hussein to take the responsibility of the government of Muslims. 10 years, Imam Hussein was the Imam, and he was in Medina between 50 till 60 after Hijrah. Muawiyah died in the year 60 after Hijrah. The blunder that Muawiyah did, with the help of his supporters who were evil supporters, he prepared his son to be announced as the Khalifa after him, which has never happened in Islam. None of the previous rulers from Saqifa till the time of Muawiyah, none of them put his son as crown prince, because in Islam there is no crown prince at all. Islam does not allow this, because rule in Islam is based on qualifications, not on inheritance without qualifications. And this matter of appointing crown prince happened first time in Islam by Muawiyah. And after Muawiyah, all the tyrant rulers followed the same way of Muawiyah. And this is one of the big crimes of Muawiyah, who started what is called monarchy in Islam, which is completely away from Islam. It goes against Quran, against the Hadith, against every principle in Islam. But Muawiyah wanted to do it. Muawiyah didn't care for Islam, for Quran. Muawiyah wanted his own wish. So one of the very close supporters of Muawiyah, who is Marwan, from his family as well, he stood up in the Grand Masjid of Sham in the presence of Muawiyah and in the presence of Yazid. Yazid was brought to the masjid because Yazid was not at all in the masjid. Yazid openly is against Salah, Ibadah. He has nothing to do with that. But he was brought by his father for a purpose. Marwan stood up and he said in front of everyone, the ruler is Muawiyah. And when he goes from this life, then after him the ruler will be Yazid. And anyone who objects, then this. And he raised his sword. In Arabic he said, أمير المؤمنين هذا فإذا مضى فهذا وإلا ومن أبى فهذا. Anyone who objects on Yazid, then this is his ultimate, the sword. He will be killed. Of course, most of people don't want to be in trouble with the ruler. When Muawiyah died, Yazid announced himself, declared himself as Khalifa. The people in Sham, out of weakness, out of fear, out of whatever, they didn't object. Then Yazid sent a message immediately to the ruler of Medina, who was cousin brother of Yazid, Al-Walid bin Utbah bin Abi Sufyan. Al-Walid bin Utbah, who was the ruler of Medina, called, the message was, Muawiyah passed away and I became the Khalifa. Call Hussein ibn Ali and Abdullah bin Zubair and take from them bay'ah, allegiance for me as Khalifa. And take allegiance from all people of Medina for me as Khalifa. But mainly Hussein bin Ali and Abdullah bin Zubair. The ruler of Medina invited Imam Hussein to his place. And he read for him the letter which came from Yazid. In that meeting, when Imam Hussein was there, Marwan also was there in the meeting. Marwan was one of the worst persons from the family of Bani Umayyah against Ahlulbayt. Of course, Imam Hussein did not accept what Yazid wrote because what Yazid has written is clear breach of the agreement, the breach of the agreement between the treaty, which says clearly that when Muawiyah dies, the leadership comes back to Imam Hassan, and if he is not alive, then to Imam Hussein. So Imam Hussein is the entitled leader of Muslims. Of course, he is the Imam. That is something which never changes. But as far as the government is concerned, he was entitled. Imam Hussein didn't say yes, and he said, this matter is not a matter of private meeting between me and you. No. نصبح وتصبحون. It was night time. Tomorrow morning, we'll see. Marwan told the ruler, Al-Walid, don't allow him to leave your place before giving allegiance to Yazid. Otherwise, you will never get from him any allegiance to Yazid. If he refuses to give allegiance to Yazid now, kill him. Imam Hussein told Marwan, Ya ibn al-Zarqa, you, because Marwan's mother was well-known bad women. In that time, they used to call them Dhawatul A'lam. The bad women of that time used to put certain flag on their houses. So those who want to commit adultery see the flag and go to the bad woman. So he told him, remember your mother, who was called Zarqa, Ya ibn al-Zarqa, you threaten me, you will never be able to do anything. Imam Hussein told his people who were waiting outside that if you hear my voice goes high, then enter. Come in. He raised his voice to all Abu al-Fadl Abbas and other persons from Bani Hashim who were with him. They entered. The ruler had no choice but to say, okay, then take your time and we'll see. Imam Hussein decided to leave Medina because remaining in Medina means the ruler will kill him, and Imam Hussein will never give allegiance to Yazid, for the simple reason that Yazid was an open enemy of Islam, openly. His father was committing many crimes, but his father was always trying to hide. He used to do a lot of major sins, but he used to try to hide. Yazid came openly. Have a caller?
No, we just have to go for a very short break right now. But inshallah, once we come back from the break, we'll carry on from the discussion. And again, a note to our viewers that do send in your questions. We'll have them answered after the break. We have received a couple via the text number. So inshallah, we'll do our best to have your questions answered after the break in about 2 or 3 minutes' time. So keep watching. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Dear viewers, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to a special edition of Ahlulbayt Live. This afternoon we're discussing the road to Ashura, discussing the events surrounding Ashura, what took place before, during, and if you have time, maybe after the day of Ashura. My guest this afternoon is Syed Muhammad Musawi. And again, a brief reminder to our viewers that you can call into the program. Give us a call 0203 4117 842, or you can text us 07506 842 842. Sayyidina, before the break, we received a question from one of our viewers. Maybe if you can briefly answer this question, since the viewer called in. And the question was, could you just advise on the amal that's required to recite on the day of Ashura or on the eve of Ashura?
The day of Ashura is the day of the biggest tragedy in the history of humankind. The tragedy of Karbala is, as we read in Ziyarat Ashura, مصيبة ما أعظمها وأعظم مصيبتها في السماوات والأرض. Means it is the greatest tragedy in the skies and earth. So the mu'min on the day of Ashura should remember the tragedy and should behave as a family member of the followers of Ahlulbayt family. A tragedy takes place in a family. Everybody in the family will be sad, mourning. So, in the day of Ashura and in the night of Ashura, we should not involve ourselves in any worldly matter, because it is the day of biggest musibah, biggest tragedy. Imam Al-Rida alayhi salam mentioned about his father, Imam Musa ibn Ja'far alayhi salam, that from the beginning of Muharram he was sad till the 10th he was having his maximum sadness and grief and weeping, because it is the day of the biggest tragedy. It is recommended to recite Ziyarat Ashura. Those who can reach to Karbala, it is highly recommended to go for Ziyarat of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in Karbala. Those who cannot reach, they are recommended to recite Ziyarat Ashura from where they are. Recite the Ziyarat of Ashura either with the 100 times repeating, or one time according to your time. But don't forget to recite Ziyarat Ashura on the day of Ashura. It is also mentioned in the hadiths that the day of Ashura, being a day of biggest tragedy, it is recommended that we don't eat and don't drink, not as or with the intention of fasting, no fasting. But we don't eat, don't drink till afternoon, because Imam Hussein alayhi salam and his family, the day of Ashura, did not have access to water or food. So the mu'mineen should remember that on the day of Ashura, morning of Ashura, till afternoon, we should not indulge in eating and drinking and enjoying these bounties, just to remember what happened in the day of Ashura and Karbala. This is called in some languages faqa, means to keep yourself hungry, but not fasting. Fasting on the day of Ashura is bid'ah. Bid'at was taken from Bani Umayyah, taken from the Jews by Bani Umayyah. And it is makruh to fast on the day of Ashura. Now many Muslims who don't know the reality, they fast on the day of Ashura and they propagate fasting on the day of Ashura. Even some of them claim that it is a day of celebration and it is a day of happiness. No, that is the propaganda of Bani Umayyah, those who killed Imam Hussein, and they want people to celebrate that day, and they fabricated a lot of narrations regarding the day of Ashura.
So since we're discussing about the day of Ashura and Karbala, we have about 20 minutes before we end the program. Can we discuss exactly what took place once Imam Hussein arrived in Karbala until the day of Ashura? So what happened? What was the sequence of events?
Let me go quickly through what happened from Medina, quickly.
Okay.
Imam Hussein left Medina on the 28th of Rajab. 28th of Rajab, year 60 after Hijrah. He went, before that he went to visit the shrine of his grandfather, the Prophet, and we have narration that he went to say al-wada', farewell, and he repeated, he went 7 times to the shrine of the Prophet to say al-wada', farewell, that I am going. He went to Mecca. He was very fast. The journey usually from Medina to Mecca that time used to take 11 to 12 days. He reached from Medina to Mecca within 4 to 5 days. Means he was very fast from Medina to Mecca. And he reached to Mecca on the 3rd or 4th of Sha'ban, and he remained in Mecca 120 days. 120 days he was in Mecca. And then when he came to know that Yazid has sent people to kill Imam Hussein in the Masjid al-Haram near the Kaaba, when Imam is busy in Tawaf or in Ibadah, he did not want to cause bloodshed in Kaaba, and he left Mecca on the 8th of the Hajj, just 1 day before the day of Arafah. And from Mecca he went to Tan'im, from Tan'im to Sifah and to other places till he reached Karbala on the 2nd day of Muharram. Then in Karbala, Imam Hussein bought the whole land, the whole piece of land where he had his camp. He bought it from the owners. That's why now the Haram of Imam Hussein and the area surrounding it belongs to Imam Hussein. Okay. He bought it. He was not buried in a land which was owned by others. No, he was the owner. He bought it from the owners. from 2nd of Muharram till 9th of Muharram, Imam Hussein alayhi salam tried everything possible to convince Umar bin Saad not to go for war. Imam Hussein alayhi salam was knowing that he will be killed. But being an infallible Imam, every infallible Imam deals with life with both sides. The reason and the unseen. Reason means he has to prepare and try his best to make things better. Unseen, he knows what will happen at the end. So his knowledge about the result did not stop him from trying his best to convince the leaders, especially Umar bin Saad. Because Umar bin Saad, son of Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. And Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas was one of the well-known companions. And Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas knew the status of Imam Hussein. Even Umar himself, he knew who is Imam Hussein. That's why when he was being promised to be appointed as a governor in Ray, which is near Tehran, now where the shrine of Shah Abdul Azim is called Ray. So he was being promised that if you kill Imam Hussein, you will be given the post of the ruler of that area. He said that I am between two options. If I kill Imam Hussein, I will get the post of the governor of Ray, but in the day of judgment, I'll go to hellfire. If I don't kill him, I will lose the dream of that post. Ultimately, he opted to leave his akhirat and join Yazid and kill Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein had many trials, including a meeting. Imam Hussein met personally Umar bin Saad. And spoke to him. And Umar knows who is Imam Hussein. Umar bin Saad said, I'm forced to implement the orders of Yazid. If I disobey Yazid, he will destroy my house. Imam told him, I will give you another house. He was after excuse, in fact. At the end of the meeting, Umar bin Saad remained insisting on obeying Yazid, not obeying Allah. At the end of the meeting, Imam said, وَمَا كُنْتُ مُتَّخِذَ الْمُضِلِّينَ عَضُدًا. I will never take the misleading people as supporters. He left him. But he made the evidence clear on him. Then Umar bin Saad cannot say in the future that I was not informed, I was unaware, I didn't know. No. Imam Hussein made it very clear for Umar bin Saad. And for all the army, Imam Hussein stood in front of the army and he told them, you know me, you know my father, you know my mother, Fatima alayhi salam, you know my grandfather, the Prophet. Then on what reason you are fighting me? Did I take any of your rights? Did I change anything in the religion? He left them without evidence. Just made them in front of the fact that they are blindly obeying a tyrant against the order of Allah. In the days, the 8 days that Imam Hussein spent in Karbala, that 8 days was full of great lessons that if people want to write, they can, the scholars can write books and books with volumes only in what happened in these 8 days, from the 2nd of Muharram till the 10th of Muharram in Karbala. What Imam Hussein alayhi salam said, what he did, his conversations with the enemies, even what he and how he dealt with people who repented, like Hur. Hur was one of the leaders of Bani Umayyah. And Hur was sent deliberately by Ubaidullah bin Ziyad to stop Imam Hussein and to harass him. And he went with his soldiers, big number of soldiers, and he did stop Imam Hussein, and he harmed Imam Hussein and his family and companions. Same Hur came on the day of Ashura, repenting, and Imam Hussein accepted him. And we know what happened later on when Hur became shaheed in the way of Allah. It is not only Hur. We have got also persons like Zuhair ibn al-Qayn. Zuhair ibn al-Qayn is more or less like Hur. Zuhair ibn al-Qayn spent his life, or many years of his life, a staunch supporter of Uthman. And that time, they used to call those group Uthmanis. Uthmanis, those who were dead against Imam Ali. They used to accuse Imam Ali to be part in the killing of Uthman. Zuhair ibn al-Qayn was Uthmani. And Zuhair ibn al-Qayn met Imam Hussein on the way from Mecca to Karbala. And Zuhair was trying his best not to meet Imam Hussein. Not to meet him. He didn't like Imam Hussein. He was with the other party, against Imam Ali and against Ahlulbayt. In a place called Zarud, Imam Hussein was stopping over there for a night, day and night. Zuhair ibn al-Qayn also stopped. It was like a station for all the travelers. They take water from there and rest. Imam Hussein called Zuhair. Zuhair was surprised. He didn't like to see Imam Hussein. Zuhair's wife told him that the son of Fatima is calling you. Will you refuse to meet him? Go and listen. See what he says. So, because of the encouragement of his wife, he went and spoke. He listened to Imam Hussein. That meeting with Imam Hussein changed Zuhair ibn al-Qayn completely. From being Uthmani against Ahlulbayt, he became lover of Ahlulbayt, follower of Ahlulbayt. And Imam told him that if you follow me, you will be killed. He said, yes, I want to be martyred with you. He came to his wife and gave her the news that I am now joining Imam Hussein. I know I will be shaheed. I don't want you to suffer because of me. He gave her some wealth and tell her, go back to your family and I will remain with Imam Hussein. So Zuhair is also one of the persons who were being changed totally from bad to very good because of the meeting with Imam Hussein alayhi salam.
So now we have about 3 minutes left before we end the program. But just very quickly, and this is very important, I'm not sure if you can squeeze this in the time that we have left, is that people condemn the followers of the Ahlulbayt alayhim salam for crying, mourning, lamenting the tragedy on the day of Ashura. What response can we give them? I mean, they have their references from the Quran saying that it is haram to cry.
No reference.
And things
no
like
reference
that.
in Quran. Where is in Quran? On the contrary, in Quran, the Prophet himself, Prophet Yaqub, who's a prophet, infallible, he cried and cried and cried till he lost his eyesight. So when the Prophet is crying for tragedy of his son, knowing that his son is not killed yet, alive, but away from him. And those who object on us, they don't understand our situation. They imagine us like them. Their hearts have no love, real love to Ahlul Bayt. And from such hearts, it is unusual to weep and cry. No love. Just they take the name of the Prophet on their lips. No real love, because the Prophet said, no believer is a believer unless I and my family become more dear to him than himself and his family to himself. We love the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt. And when you love someone and that person is in a tragedy, you cannot help yourself. You have to cry because of your love. If you remove the love, then you will not cry. Those who object on us because they don't have our feelings of love to the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, we are expressing our love to the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt, and that is the best degree of Iman. In fact, we blame them. We ask them that if you claim that you love the Prophet with your love, you know that the Prophet himself in his life, he cried and wept on the tragedy which did not happen. It was to happen.
No. Sayyidina, I'm sorry to cut you off, but inshallah we can perhaps carry on the conversation during our program on Sunday at the Q&A. But thank you very much for being with us here this afternoon. Thank you very much for watching, inshallah. See you again sometime next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.